which are, you by end of session you'll be understanding the importance of information security management, what are why it is so important. You'll understand the security policy implementation, what are you to certain areas. It can give you scenario based questions to the actual content, keeping the pace at a good start, and we'll try to cover maximum we could. Okay, let me also this it on the presentation mode. Okay, so yeah, the first domain, security and risk management, there are a lot of learning objectives from that, which are, you by end of session you'll be understanding the importance of information security management, what are why it is so important. You'll understand the security policy implementation, what are the differences between the policy, the guidelines, the standards, a lot of terminologies. And you know I know there are a lot of freshers here, but don't get scared of these, but we'll go through these terminologies in a way that that's easy for you to remember. We'll also look at the risk management part, the qualitative, the quantitative risk assessments that we do in this. We look at the personal security, what are the components of personal security. We look at the different crimes and certain laws also associated with that. What are the different kind of crimes are happening? What are the different kind of laws majorly there to rectify that? And we'll also see at the BCP process, right? Business continuity process. So that's our learning objective from this course, from this specific domain. Clear? Uh, okay. Next is okay. So we'll start with one of the case study and read it out for you. So Kevin Butler is a security administrator in the network firewalls division at Nutri Worldwide INC. He must prepare for the CISP exam. He starts his preparation by reading a historical case of competitor. The competitor company had failed to understand the importance of the information security. The company had planned their business continuity planning without continuous involvement of IT. IT security input was taken without the team playing an active role. The BCP was weak in the areas of IT security. When the headquarters of the competitor's company was actually hit by a tornado, there was a huge information leak as a data protection measure were not well planned at the time of natural disaster. The IT department tried their best to prevent this. The company faced major losses, which led them to file for bankruptcy within a few years. Right. So, in a nutshell, all those who are quite new to security, consider BCP as business continuity planning. Consider that you have been confronted with an unwanted situation. So, for example, I'm confronted with tornado, for example, and even in that situation, if you want your business to continue operating, that is considered as BCP. And in earlier days, what used to happen, it used to be BCP planning, the DR plannings, that used to be BCP is business continuity planning, right? That used to be done over the weekends for 1 days, 2 days, but gone are those days where we used to just go there and try BCP for certain days. Now there are proper planning being done, proper looking at what are the resources that can be understand and can be explored with that, right? So this is why this is important, is because in this scenario you see that when the BCP planning was doing, the IT security was not considered well, right? BCP. Okay, business continuity planning. Is someone actually highlighting the content? Please stop doing that. uh okay, I guess it's who's that? Mohan, please. Okay, stop doing that because we're doing a very serious topic here. Okay, so BCP. as I mentioned, is business continuity plan, and this is the case study where the input of IT was not taken, and as a result, when actually the business was hit by a tornado, there was a data leakage happened that led to a lot of losses, and finally it led to the bankruptcy within a few years. So BCP is important, and just a case study highlighting the importance of BCP and DR. Right. Yeah, full form of BCP, business continuity planning organization. I now start moving from BCP. The business resiliency is a new concept that happening. Terminologies, but the concepts more remains same. Yeah. Let's move on to information security. Information, it's a very generic term. Information could be in any format. It could be a paper based. It could be a digital information. So information security is process of simply protecting your information. And okay, Ishika, don't worry about the slides. You have that as ebooks available. No worries in that. Don't take notes because these are available as ebooks. So don't worry about that. Focus on the concepts because okay, you have a doubt actually. Go on, please. Yeah.
Disruption, deletion,
Okay.
modification, protection.
Waiting for the doubt, Ishika. Yeah. The information. Okay, I'll come to. So what's the case and what trick we can apply here? What's the case, Ishika? Okay, your question is. Uh, okay, your question is what's the case and what trick we can apply. The case is simply, it's just a normal case study that has been presented that the BCP plannings that was done in silos, what it can lead to. So the inputs of IT team is important in that. So when actually the situations comes, those inputs are quite valuable. So it's just a simple case study. You don't have to apply any trick here. It's just that proper BCP planning with inputs from all the associates are required for an effective BCP and DR, right? That's the main concept here. It's just a simple case that you don't have to, cramp any stuff in that. Okay. Okay. Thanks. Uh, Geeta. Okay, we are going into information security. Information security is not only physical security. It's about you have digital information also. So we have a lot of digital information coming up. It not only brings only to the physical security, but it's more about the different informations that the types of informations we are having. We are applying controls to protect our information, right? And an information can be in any format. Could be a physical format, could be a digital format. So what are the threats you can think of? What are the threats you can think of? And this would tied back us to our mantra one, and start taking notes of at least the mantras and start adopting it, because that would help you in longer run for sure. So information security, I'll say don't cram this stuff. You don't have to remember these five because there are a number of threads. Let's take an example, right? Let me take you to our example. Okay. Okay. So our first mantra is related with real life examples, right? So consider you have monthly sale excels of your company, right? That is an information, right? That's a very useful information for your company. What damages could happen to your sales information? What can you think of if you're having a excel with your monthly sales data? What can be, what different damage could happen to my sales information? Just write it in the comment so that you'll see a pattern coming up. That's a very easy to relate real life example. Deletion, very good. Manipulation of data, exactly, very good. Right. Exactly. Unavailability, that's very good. You have covered most of the dead data. Let me take you the subsequent what I want to say in this. Okay, unavailability is correct. So think of normal basis. Someone can actually see my sales data, right? Confidentiality, yeah, more of related here also. CIA is a very important concept. Everything is related to CIA. So all those freshers, you'll see that CIA is something which is, has been existence for years, and it is used a lot, and you'll see a lot of concepts relating to CIA. But in normal terminology, what we say that, hey, my sales data can be seen by anyone. So that's a disclosure, right? Someone can actually modify. That's a simple modification. Someone can actually delete it. That is a simple deletion, right? Someone can actually remove the entire Excel. That is a destruction, right? Someone can also apply passwords. It could make, password protection. It's a disruption, right? Also, it could be hash your information. It's not available to you, so it's unavailability. See how easily we have come to the terms. And if you see the other deck that we have, what is this? This is disclosure. This is destruction, deletion, modification, destruction, right? You don't have to cram stuffs. Even though these five terms you don't have to remember, it's just that it should hit your brain that, hey, if I relate it with real life example, how can I retain stuff easily? That is the easy way. Yeah, right. Availability that we have discussed. Someone deletes all data. Yeah, destruction is that we have discussed. CIA obviously is something that we'll discuss a lot. Everything ties back to CIA again, but yeah, information sharing, unavailability. You see, you have given me the answers here. We have not gone into what is these, but this is something we deduce with real life examples happening around. So your mantra one is simply related with real life examples. Clear enough? Okay, thanks a lot. Let's move on to, we have just looked at different. Okay, let's move on to the technology part, and also what are the factors that could impact my information security. Let me again go into the presentation mode. Just a second, because okay, your selling data would actually come in, if you're giving information to any unauthorized person, that would be for sure a confidentiality constraints that should happen. You know, like if an unauthorized person is able to access the data, if you're not able to keep your secret as secret, that is tempering your confidentiality. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, the data leaks. Yeah. It would actually impact your confidentiality. Yeah, right. So let's look at the factors that impact the information security. First of all, the technology, you know, platforms and tools used. We have so many platforms. Like, we're not limiting ourselves on premises. We have clouds offerings. We have hybrids offerings. So there are different platforms available now. If you talk about tools, there are so many open source tools. There are so many security tools coming up. You cannot, apply controls to all of the platforms and tools existing. Your information is at risk at different platforms and different tools, right? If you buy an open source tool, you're not sure whether they are applying a proper security controls in that or not. So that's one of the area that would impact your information for sure. Network connectivity, it's very easy. If you're related with, again, a real life example, if you're sending your data with not a protected medium, that is a challenge. The network is a very important area. We have lot of people sitting on networks observing your data. They can tamper you. Again, the relating it with CIA. So this is also one of the factor that would impact my information. Level of IT complexity. Earlier there used to be a tightly coupled way of system, but especially we see that there is a remote way of working. We see people are operating from different geos at different time zones. So the IT complexity over the years has increased a lot. And So if you apply controls, it cannot be applied at every IT. So we we see that the IT complexity overall has increased. There are different technologies being used. You're not limiting yourself here. You will use mainframes, will use Python, will use Java. No, there is amendments in technologies which has led to the overall increase in complexity, and also led to high number of chances of attacks on my information. Correct. New and emerging security tools. There are different tools for different categories. Think of time when we how we were recovering our passwords. Think in that way. We used to mention about, hey, that's my last name, that's my pet name, that's my first school name. That's how we used to do our recovery. And see now how our passwords are managed. There are applications that manage your password, right? Password manager, one password, these are all ways of managing your password. So overall the security tools have increased, and that is a positive stuff. But also the information security brings to that area that you have proper tools in existence. Operational support for security, we call it OPSEC. The way operation teams used to take that as a task has now considered a lot on security part also, right? So overall technology has improved over the years, but at the same time it has also led us to the increase in my information leakage, and there has to be a better process of maintaining my information, right? Okay, hope this is clear. Let me take the question. As you, please highlight the things which are important or need to be remembered for the exam. I'll do that. Like for example, canons. Yeah, I'll let you know. Look, exam would, as I mentioned, would not restrict only to certain topics. It's a very vast topic, but I let you know the important terms that you have to remember. Like for example, the canon example, the four canons that you have to remember, right? That would come, sure, no worries. But yeah, this is something that would come, and I let you know that the different canons. But just to be clear that no one predicts what comes in CIS. So take every concept as a new concept and try to remember uh, as much as can conceptually, not cramming stuffs. Yeah, canons is something that you would have to remember by heart. But yeah, I'll let you know in short. So yeah, the technology part is clear. Yeah, we can move on to the business plans. The nature of business has also changed, right? The way we were doing uh, banking 10 years ago is totally changed. You had to go to the bank, for a number of operations, for opening an account, for giving any documents. That shifted to people, the bank associates coming to your home, opening accounts, and has shifted again to you moving on to the entire digital world. All your banking operations are on your laptops, on your digital platforms, phones. So the nature of business has changed, and so as we see the different risk involved around my information has also changed, right? Risk tolerance is simply the risk. We say that the threshold of a company, the risk appetite of the company. So risk tolerance is how much risk a company can afford to take. So that is my risk appetite. If you have a higher risk tolerance, it's better for your company because you can take higher risk, in short, and still continue to operate. So that's also one of the factor. Industry trends, as I mentioned, we see that it has changed, and it varies based on industries to industries. So for example, if you talk about your healthcare industries, uh, there is a term called PHI, right? So that is your health record, personal health information. That is your specific terms related to health industry, your pharma industry. And there are laws associated. So for example, our HIPAA law, that is more oriented towards my PHI record. Similarly, if you talk about your credit card industry, there is a standard called PCI DSS standard that is more about my banking area. So our controls and our risk is also dependent upon our industry, right? Merger acquisitions, just think of an example is that you for example merge two organizations that have a different way of operating. One is considering a lot on your security part, other is still improving. So once you do that merger and acquisition, that is a challenging part for you, right? So overall, you should have an existence in your mergers part. If you, there should be a consistency in your companies merging. The security controls, the best practices adopted by one company should also be inherited by my second company that is being acquired. So again, the merger and acquisition that also leads you to the overall improvements in your company, right? Next is outsourcing. If you're giving your work to another company, that has to be also looked carefully. You have to see whether the outsourced company, the company that is looking at, is actually looking into your informations, in looking at whether they have a preferred way of maintaining the security or not, right? this is these are the different parameters that can lead you to the informations and the security parts in that. Clear enough? Let me look at the question. Okay. I didn't get how risk tolerance can impact infosec. Could you give an example? Think of risk tolerance. So for example, if you you lose and data, as an example, if you lose and data and still continue to operate and that doesn't damages your reputation, right? If for example, if you're if you consider the health industry, right? If you lose your data, the PHI data, that that would lead to high penalties and also the damage that can happen. Now think of a simple vendor that provides services in terms of confectionery. If they lose data, they would still continue to operate. But if think of an industry like pharma, if you lose your PHI data, that is at a very high risk. So the risk tolerance is very low there. But think of simple confectionery data. You're, for example, you're buying pizza. If your data is lost, that won't have that much risk tolerance. That would not impact a lot of your information. But if, for example, in your health data, if you lose it, there is a penalties that you would have. But more than that, there would be a reputation damage that would impact you more, right? Okay. Any other thoughts? Any other queries on this? Okay, clear. I'll Yeah, every organization will have a different risk tolerance for sure. It depends upon the industry in which they are operating. It depends upon the different areas that can be impacted, right? So every organization has a different appetite, and as I mentioned, the higher the risk tolerance, the better it is for the company. Yeah, there are terminologies associated with that, like there are concepts that define what is my RPO, what is my RTO. Those kinds of terminologies are actually uh, defined by organizations. So, for example, uh, the RPO, how much data I can afford to lose, that is defined by an organization. So higher risk tolerance, consider if you're having higher risk tolerance, that is better for your organization. It means you have a higher risk appetite. If you lose a lot of information and still continue to operate, that is better for your organization. So higher the risk tolerance, the better it is for your the company. Right. Okay. Risk tolerance means mitigation of particular issue. No, risk tolerance is not specifically looking at mitigation of issues. It's think of that as the risk appetite. How much risk my company can afford to take, right? What is the max that my company can afford to lose and still continue to operate? That is the one. Accepting the risk is, hey, so for example, if you are working in an hill station, and the earthquake are common factor there, you'll just accept the risk. You cannot do anything about that. The company would accept it, hey, that the earthquake would come, but we still want to work in that organization, right? So, right, risk tolerance is not accepting. Risk acceptance is a way of handling with the risk. So you can either transfer the risk, accept the risk, mitigate the risk. These are more risk handling terminologies. Risk appetite is majorly my risk appetite of the company. It's more about risk tolerances, risk appetite. I'll give you an example. The RPO that I am mentioning about is RPO is how much data I can actually afford to lose. If I lose data beyond that, then it would be an issue. Okay, clear. Okay, let's move on. Okay. So yeah, people often get confused with what is information security and what is cyber security. Information security deals with information of any format, right? Cyber security more goes into your digital format. Now we are operating in different ways, like the home way of working, the distributed way of working. So we have a lot of digital information, right? So cybersecurity is more around that digital kind of information, and it's actually a sub part of information security, right? So cybersecurity is a subset of information security, right, Natasha? So cybersecurity refers to anything intended to protect enterprises from the attacks, breaches, incidents, and consequences. The main objective is that the breaches that are happening, the attacks that are happening, that doesn't affect my cybersecurity, right? So the information in my digital format, that is safe. If I show you also, uh, yeah, see, cybersecurity is actually a part of information security. So it's a subset of information security, right? Yeah, the main objective for me is, in terms of cybersecurity, is that we prevent our systems from the breaches, the attacks that are happening, right? And why it is considered an important factor, cybersecurity, is because as we have mentioned a lot before, is that there has been a lot of technology and advancements. There are different terminologies, different tools, different technologies coming up, different programming languages. So that has actually led to the increase in my cybercrime as well, right? And another reason is that, as I was mentioning, that most of the business is happening online these days. We have moved on uh, to the digital way of operating. So a lot of information is generated digitally, and there has to be a way to protect that data. Presence of crime syndicates are majorly the association. So the way the people are actually collaborating in a way that has also increased the way by which I can attack the data. Right? Cyber armies, yeah, that's quite common. There are groups that work together to perform the attacks. Financial fraud, again, we have seen the frauds happening in various ways, specifically in financial formatting, the way the OTPs are being snatched, the way social engineering attacks are being done. This is, the reasons why the cybersecurity is quite an important part. Yeah, let's take the question. Is it protection of only information assets? How about, yeah, that's those are more the computer servers. Those are more of a physical physical way of uh, physical controls and physical security that you come in. Information security is major about the informations that are being generated. So it could be in digital format, it could be, but the protecting my server assets, computers, that comes in more of a physical security concepts. Zero day is what is zero day is simply the zero day is simply the new vulnerabilities that are come, that don't have a solution right now. So lot of attacks happening, and if you're not having any remedies for that, that are zero day attacks, not related to uh this terminologies, but yeah, we are considering about information security and cyber security, right? Yeah, considering time, let's move on with the concepts, right? So as I was mentioning that the information security and cyber security, lot of confirmations that happens. Information security deals with information regardless of the format. As I mentioned, it could be a paper base, it could be a digital data, it could be your intellectual property as well. Cyber security on the other end is more around the information that is being transported over the network. So more of my digital way of informations, right? So that's a comparison on that. And as I mentioned, it's a component of information security, right? Next up, we have certain trends that would come. You don't have to, again, as I mentioned, you don't have to cram those steps. You don't have to just learn it by hand, but just to let you know the recent trends that are happening in my cyber crime statistics simply. So just not going, but just reading one two during the first 6 months of 2018, more than 25 million record were compromised or exposed every day. Over 24K malicious mobile apps are blocked daily. So these are more of the different way of performing, the different statistics associated with that. Example of social engineering, for example, you would see is that there is an attacker who calls you and he says that, hey, I'm your boss, just delete these files, right? So he in a way has made you believe that he's your boss, and he has made you perform that action, right? Right. Passive and active in a way. Okay, let's look at the next concepts, because we have to go to our other mantras also. As I mentioned, the canons have to be discussed. But next is our approaches to cyber security. What are the different approaches? And quite a simple way to remember is that we can go either by compliance based, ad hoc based, or risk based, right? Compliance based is more around relying on the regulation. So you're operating in certain industry that has a lot of regulations. So for example, if you're operating in banking, then PCI DSS standard would actually let you follow certain regulations. Similarly, if you're operating in health industry, the HIPAA regulations would make you follow a lot of controls to be there to maintain the cyber security. Ad hoc base is simply, there is no criteria or no rationale for that, but it's simply implementation on an ad hoc basis. And risk based is more around, you identify the risk, you look at what are the different risks are existing in my company and how I can apply my security controls to address those risks. Ad hoc are general way of uh, operating. So for example, DOS is denial of service attack will come on to will come on customers coming on your systems, and suddenly you see 10,000 coming up on your system on a specific day. There could be the very carefully. Threat hunting comes, you something has not happened, but still you see this could be a possibility. So you follow ad hoc approach in that way also. Agree. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. Yeah, the code of ethics is what that was asked before the canons one. Just to let you know that this is something that you have to look very carefully. Threat hunting comes under this, which is completely proactive. Yeah, could be. Yeah, you look at the different threats that could happen to my organization, and it's purely a proactive approach, right? Yeah, the code of ethics. So ISC square, once you're appearing for the exam, you would also see these four canons coming up. So you have to, when you're appearing for CISP, you have to green tick on these fours, and you have to say I agree for these canons. And so what exactly it is that ISC square expects you to operate in an ethical manner, right? Even after your certification, it is expected from your side that you would adhere to these canons. And any point if you see someone not following these canons, you would raise issues in that too, right? It's not that you are just completely following, but also if someone else you see are not following these canons, you would raise an alarm and let ISC square notify, "Hey, this person is not operating properly in the recommended way of ISC square canons," right? So the important stuff for you on this slides are these four canons, that too in order, right? So this will lead us to our next mantra, but let's read it out. Is that the first canon is protect society, the common goods, necessary public trust and confidence and infrastructure. Second is act honorably, honestly, justly, responsibly and legally. You have to remember these in order. Provide diligent and competent service to principals and advance and protect the profession. So these four canons has to be remembered by order. You may not remember all these by word, but yeah, just the starting is also required for. So for that leads us to our second mantra. Let me focus on that also. Okay. Okay. So our next trick is make mnemonics, short stories to remember the multiple concepts. So for example, I remember the canons through the simple line that in society to act honorably, you must provide services in advance. So what it is? So it's more about, the my starting is more around the society stuff, right? The last if I see is provide services in advance. You must provide services in advance. So uh, these are mnemonics that you can consider, or you can also think of papa as a mnemonic, that there is protect, act, provide and advance. So if I go back to the four canons that are mentioned, papa is protect, act, provide, advance. So at least the starting is quite clear to me, that hey, uh, can we have this mantra, that's okay, that's something that is very confidential to me, but I'm not sure if I can share this, because this might this might retaliate with Simply Learn policies. But yeah, you can anytime listen to the recording sessions that could work, and you can create your own mantras, right? Yeah, that's, you'll see a lot of lot of interesting stuff coming up, and that's something which would be easy to remember. So like Papa and making mnemonics that are easy to remember: protect, act, provide, advance. So by this way, if there are stuffs that you have to remember, start making short stories in your mind, so that you don't have to cram stuff. It comes to your head quite easily, right? So that's code of ethics. And just to let you know that there were a lot of questions coming up that these canons are not quite descriptive. They are at higher level. So what ISC Square actually did, they went on to the canon details. So recently, in 1-2 years back, they went on what kind of information we get. There is a question coming up. You will see will what kind of question you would have. So you could have a scenario where you see person doing a fraud. What canon is he violating, and what's your job? If you see a person leaking information, what would you do? You would let him do that? Would you contact ISC Square? So these kinds of questions actually come. And yeah, there is one question coming up. I'll let you know the question part in that. So yeah, going on to what I was mentioning about, what was the first mantra, the related with real life examples. If you relate it with real life examples, that is an easy approach. So yeah, coming back to the details of canons. So there were queries around, hey, we are having the canons at a very top level. We want more descriptions around that. So ISC Square actually went on to defining the details around that canons, right? Like it discourages unsafe practices. It observes what are the agreements that are happening. It avoids a conflicts of interest in the profession. It makes sure that you take care to ensure the reputations of others. So you don't have to again go into the details of these, but yeah, you should you should have uh, you should have ways of relating with what can actually come in this, right? So yeah, these are the canons, and these are the mantras that should be on your tips. We also have the details around the code of ethics. What is an ethic? What is uh what is a principle behind that? Maybe that's the next slide. Yeah. Okay. So ethics, if we talk about in our daily routine life, what are those? What are the simple principles and values that is expected from an individual, right? If you see a company not following any, if for example, if there is a data leak in your uh, in your company, in your third party company you're taking services with, you're not meant to disclose it individually. You have to give certain time for that, for the company to understand, is there actually a data leak? So these are the certain expectations from you in terms of ethics, right? And it gives you what the ethics would let you know is that it guides an organization decisions. Sometimes companies, they think more from an ethics way, that what is the right way of handling a situation. So in that situation, ethics is an important area. And you realize that, hey, this is our moral responsibilities of the company. We cannot just work on a selfish basis. It's more around the expectations from your side, right? So that's why the ethics are quite an important part, and how it can help your organization is also an important area. Like it helps the customer understand that, hey, the company is actually focusing on the integrity, right? It lets you define the terms of ethical standards of behavior of work. Sometimes you are unsure of what is my decision, so it helps you know. And obviously there are situations where you're not sure of what decision should be made. This would guide you in that principle as well, right? There was a question of what kind of question we have. So I guess we have a knowledge check up. Yeah. So let's give a try on this, and this would lead us. Can ethics be extended to a non-employee, not a non-employee? So for example, if you have a contractors, that can be applied. But for example, if someone is moving out of your office, just a stranger person, you cannot expect ethics from that person, right? It's more around the associations with your companies, the tied ups with other companies, the services you're taking, the third parties you're associated with. It's more around expectations from that. And the canons that I'm mentioning, ISC square doesn't, it doesn't applies to everyone. It's actually applies to all the members of ISC square, right? Okay, let's read this question. ISC square member are obligated to follow the ethics compliant procedure upon observing any action by an ISC square member that breach the code. Failure to do so may be considered a breach of code pursuant to which canon. Lot of answers on B. Let me see that. Any other options that you can think of? Think of what is happening. What is happening? So a certain member is actually breaching the code of ethics. Okay, B, C, D, we have all the options. So we have answers for B, C, D, B, C. Okay, before looking into the answer, so we have D, B, C, D, lot of answers. Let's go to our next mantra and you'll see the importance of this, right? So what are 4 canons we have, right? These are the 4 canons. And the question is, what exactly the question was? The question was that a member who breached the code of ethics. So let's look at our next mantra. And believe me, this is one of the finest mantra. Is you don't have to look for the right answers. You have to also look for what are my wrong answers, and I would eliminate that wrong answers, right? So if see you have 4 options, you eliminate 2 options, your probability of correcting the answer has shifted from 50%, right? Right. So 25 to 50. So start adopting these mantras. Is that eliminate the wrong options, right? Try to eliminate 2 options. There are questions where you are very clear. You don't have to go into a lot of this approach that I'll eliminate the 2 questions. Are these answers in the class materials? Yes, there are. These are the answers that are also available in PPTs that we have. But yeah, moving on to our next mantra, as was mentioning, eliminate the wrong options. So let's try to adopt this. So you understand the crux of the problem? Someone is breaching the code of ethics. So why A is not, right? Because you're not protecting society or infrastructure. Let me switch to the question again for your ease. Just for a second. To follow code of ethics, the crux is simply someone is breaching the code, right? Yeah. It's right. So D, yeah, A is not, because it's not about society, right? It's not dealing with infrastructure. Also, option C won't be there because it has nothing to do with my services, right? Nothing to do with services. So C, we have eliminated option A and option C, right? So we are left with B and D. And I guess that was that was the maximum answers that we got, right? So the answer is actually D. So the answer is D because the main objective is protecting the profession. And in profession, there is a detailed explanation given that if someone observes any action that is not as per the ISC square, there is if they observe the breach of code, they must highlight it there, right? So it's actually canon 4 that you have to advance and protect the profession, right? It may look that B is right, but if you'll go to the detailed explanation, it's more that it's more about that if you see an action that is not as per the ISC member square, if you see the breach of the code, you must highlight it. Maybe that's the explanation that we have also there. Sorry, not from the beginning. Yeah. So if you see the explanation, ISC square member are obligated to follow the ethical compliant procedure upon observing an action by an ISC square member that breached the code. So this has to be tied to more of canon 4. So the main thing that I want to highlight is eliminate two options. This would help you in lot of ways, lot of areas, and you'll over the time you'll see that you'll be in a practice that the questions, even if you're not clear, you eliminate the options and you're left with two maximum opportunities. I would say you would correct the answers instead of marking randomly out of 4. So but yeah, if you're clear with question, if you're clear with your answer in your head, just go and mark it, but still protect these mantras with you. Clear enough? Clear with the approaches, the mantras that we are highlighting, right? Okay. So I guess let's take a break as well. Let's take a break as well. Hello everyone. Hope everyone is back. Okay. Yes. Yeah, I did raise a poll and I see a lot of positive responses, but I also see responses that mentions that I need to give more examples. Yeah, noted. I'll try to give you more examples with my, in mantras also you see a lot of examples coming up. But yeah, pace wise, I just received that one person is saying that I need to slow down on the pace, but rest I've seen positive responses that we are on target, right? So are we supported in remembering the canon codes? Are we supported in a way? Sorry, what's the question? Are we supported in remembering? Yeah, you can. You don't have to remember word by word. Yeah, that the challenge is for sure is the time because we have to cover a lot of content and we consume a lot of time. But yeah, the it should be suppose should we suppose it would be suppose remembering the canons. Yeah, you have to remember that through your mantras that initially I was showing you that would help you remember that mantras. And even when you are giving the exam, the 4 canons would be coming and you would have to accept that. And over the years, even when you get certified as CISP, you should not remember that word by word, but yeah, you should be aware of what is the order and how it should be dealt with. Yeah, exactly. You don't have to mug up every stuff, but yeah, just need to understand that hey, this is something that is mentioned by IC square. You don't have to, of course, mug up that stuff. Yeah. Okay. So all the feedback noted. I'll try to incorporate whatever the things that maybe there are a lot of freshers and giving the examples might help you. But yeah, I'll also try to give more examples to you so that even who are not experienced, the fresher ones, they can relate it more easily, right? Okay, so let's keep moving ahead. The concept, yeah. So next up, we have a very important concepts, and you mentioned that. Uh, okay, I'll look for the topic, the question on the topics of cannons not having handy right now, but I'll get that and we can discuss that about. Okay, so understanding the important concept, as I mentioned, most of the concepts in security, it revolves around CIA, right? So CIA, it has been